Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. The next 10 minutes are inspired by an air filter and a Lego set. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the engine. I have had one mortal enemy as long as I can remember, and it's an instruction booklet. It doesn't matter what the instructions are for. It could be for a laptop, it could be for a new phone, it could be for, I remember, a VCR. It could be for anything. I hate reading instructions. I don't know what it is. It's not like they're ever wrong. It's not like they're usually that horrible or complex. There are some things you can't avoid, like an IKEA anything. It's just, good God, you got to get out the instruction booklet that's as thick as a Bible and start slogging through it. And it's painful. But even though it's like 150 pages, at least they make sense. And there's no way you could put that piece of crap particle board dresser with a sliding keyboard tray thing together without these instructions. They're just too complex. It's not self-explanatory. But I try anyway. I will confess to actually going after a piece of IKEA furniture, albeit a smaller one, without instructions before. It did not end well. I actually put a barbecue together once incorrectly for a friend. It was his birthday. It was like a $500-600 barbecue. I got to the end and realized that I had completely forgotten a piece that went in between the two doors. Right, so you have the cabinet under the barbecue, you got doors, and there's a piece that goes in between those that magnetizes them and holds them closed. Well, I had forgotten that piece. And guess what? There are some aspects of building things where once that thing clicks in place, it's not meant to be unclicked, right? It'll have like a little wedge or a little friction piece that once it goes in to the spot, once you're building it, it's not supposed to be removed. So of course you have to like backpedal, and I'm considering trying to convince my friend that he doesn't actually need that piece. It's ridiculous, totally ridiculous. And I know this about myself. And I caught myself doing it recently with a fan, just a filter, a stupid air filter. I buy this big really intense, like 4-stage air filter for my classroom. And I got it back when I was still entertaining the possibility of not going on lockdown. And then, of course, I got these filters, put them up, and the next 2 days or something like, oh, and nobody's coming back to class. So here I have this filter, right? So I put it together, and it's not even that complex. But it has an exterior pre-filter that's kind of like, imagine a stocking, okay? Just like a stocking you put on your leg, right? And it's supposed to go over the outside of the filter. This filter is kind of rectangular. It looks like a really small refrigerator or cooler. It's supposed to go around the outside, and the air, or that filter, catches a lot of the crap like dog hair and whatnot coming into the filter, and then there's an internal portion. And it's supposed to fit really snugly. And I spend at least 10-15 minutes with this stupid thing, pulling it up, trying to get it just right to fit correctly, because there's this little crack that the seam is supposed to slink into or cinch into, and I'm just trying to get it just right. All of these things just over and over and over. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I finally got it to fit. And then I opened the other one about, a month ago, because again, I got 2 of them. Opened the other one about a month ago to put in my son's room, who was having some allergies, and was trying to explain to my wife that it's a certain level of, the filter has a certain level of capture, size particles, things like that. And I opened the instruction book to find the number, and of course it says, oh, just remove this one piece. And it very simply, the little stocking outside very simply goes on. And I was like, son of a gun. God, got me again. And that's when I really just started realizing, man, there are 2 people in the world. Those that follow instructions and those that just hate instructions. And these 2 people, they're like oil and water. Like, for the people that open something and crack open that instruction book right away, I'll never understand them. And they will probably look at the things I do and just say, you are a crazy person. You could just read the instructions. And I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just the way it is. Until I was helping one of my sons work on a Lego set recently. Now, Legos for my boys, they're younger, they're fantastic. The Legos keep them engaged. They have these awesome creations at the end. They play with the toys. They don't just take the Lego and put it up on the shelf and say, ta-da, I built a car. They really drive the car around the house. Some are pullback cars so they can pull them and crash them into each other. I mean, they're great. Legos are also impossible to do without instructions. I know this because I've tried. And my boys are trying to get around it too. But you can't. You can't build the race car without having the instructions. So I always emphasize, okay, like, let's start on this page. Let's go slow. Let's look at each piece. And they're trying to go fast, trying to skip pages. Or, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. No, just calm down. Like, trying to walk them through it. And recently I was working on this car with my 6-year-old, and he had rushed through this one step. It was like step number 4 or 5. Now we're on step 50, and the rear axle wasn't lining up appropriately with the pullback little engine, so the wheels were rubbing on the side of the car. The car wasn't really going. I take a long time and figure out, I'm like, oh no, I have to dismantle the whole thing. And this is not a quick project. I mean, it takes a couple hours. So I was like, no. Here we go. And I take it apart and fix it and put it back together. And I said something in the moment. I was like, I just hate these instructions. And my son said that he didn't like them either, which really caught me. And I realized that my assessment that there are two people in the world, people who hate instructions, people who do instructions and don't hate them, that's not a fair assessment. That's not fair at all. Because I think when it comes down to it, there's only one type of person in the world. And that person hates instructions. I don't think, upon reflection, I've ever met somebody who enjoyed following instructions, who enjoyed looking through an instruction book. My grandfather was an incredibly technical guy. He worked for IBM for decades and really was part of the program that ushered in the personal computer. Even he hated instruction booklets. He had technical manuals and instruction booklets, I guess, in his side table. And when he was having a hard time falling asleep, he'd whip them out, start reading. And my grandma said literally within like 2 minutes, he'd be passed out. He's just reading this thing, gone. And he wrote these things. So even he hated the experience, even put him to sleep. And the more I thought about it, and the more I realized there's really only one type of person in the world, and that person hates instructions, I realized, you know what? That's actually fair. But why is it that people do them or don't do them? If everybody hates them, why do some people follow them and others not? And I think it came down to people's willingness to tolerate something they dislike for a certain end. Right? So when I work on, say, the fan, or the filter, I was pretty confident that I could get it going because it was simple enough. I could get my end without tolerating the pain of the instruction manual. Even though I got it to work and it took me longer and it was dumb and I should have read it, still it's like, I'd probably do it that way again. That's just how lame I am. But with the Legos, I want an accurate end. So I have to tolerate the instruction manual. I have to tolerate that pain. Because I realize without those instructions, I won't get to where I want to be. And I think to convey this to my boys, I have to tell them. I have to tell them how much I dislike it. I have to share my disgust with instruction manuals. I can't be super positive about it all the time. Because if I don't, they're going to fall into thinking, oh, Dad's just one of those people who likes instructions. I don't. I hate them. But I believe that I'm going to get to a certain result if I follow them. And that's the key here. It's understanding that everybody hates the experience. And only those who are willing to tolerate it and work with it and navigate it will get the benefit. And I look around right now. I look around at the situation everybody's in, and I look at some people, I talk to my students a lot, and they're like, oh, my dad doesn't really care. He works from home. Or, oh, my mom doesn't really mind. And all these things. I guarantee you every parent minds. I guarantee you every parent is struggling to some degree. And I think you're doing your students and children a disservice if you don't share that pain with them a little bit. Because they need to know that the person leading the house is struggling yet follows the instructions. They need to know that the person that they look up to and they take lead from is not always happy with stuff. But they charge ahead. Because without that, they might just write off your actions to, oh, well, he doesn't really care. Instead of saying, no, he does care, or she does care. But they still do the right thing. And not all the time, but sometimes, and especially right now, following the instructions and doing the right thing may make a grand difference in people's lives. So, the next time you're frustrated and you're putting on a strong face, maybe just consider expressing a portion of that frustration to those around you. It may make you feel better, but it also may help those around you understand that even in tough times, even when you don't want to, it's still a good idea to read the instruction manual. I'm Todd, and this is the engine that drives me. Go out and crush it.